Okay, so let's jump right in. Where are we? So, Rabbi Majeski asked me to study with you the beginning of chapter 9 of Perek tests. Do you guys have sheets for that? Copies for that? Yeah? Great. Okay, so Perek test is a super important Perek, like all of them are. But this one in particular is super interesting because it talks about something that you'll hear about a lot, or reference to in all parts of Tanya, or not only in all parts of Tanya, but also everywhere in Chassidus. And that is about the Ir Ktana, the small city, and the fight, or the battle that goes on constantly to conquer the small city. Anyone familiar with what I'm talking about? The small city is your body, more specifically your body. So up until this point, we've been talking about the nature and the existence. Well, first the existence, then the nature of the nefesh habamis and the nefesh halikis, the living soul and the godly soul, right? Right? So, and it's super important to understand that, first of all, we have these two souls. And second of all, it's just as important to understand how these souls behave. What is the nature of these souls? Because if you're a thinking person, so it doesn't make sense that a person is constantly struggling with the decision to be committed to something and to do something every single day or not. A person, a sane person, a balanced person, doesn't decide that they're going to take a certain job, but then every single day rethink that decision over and over and over again, and agonize over the decision over and over and over again. In the same way that they did, if let's say they had two jobs offers on the table in the beginning, and they went back and forth and spoke to mentors, friends, what have you, about the different jobs. You know, I'm sure all of you have at one point had to agonize over a certain decision about what school to go to, about what job to take, about what event to go to not to go. And you call people, you speak to friends, you speak to older people, meaning people that you respect, older, wiser, whatever people, mentors, whatever that will guide you, and this type of thing you do once. You may do it over a number of days. People that are less decisive maybe will do it over a number of weeks. But then once you make your decision, you don't go back and a day later, literally the next day, go through the whole thing all over again. Wait a second, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I didn't think this through properly. And then 2 days later to decide, you know what, I'm going to go to the other school or to the other job or to the other whatever. Go somewhere for 3 hours and then check out and go to the other place and then leave 3 hours later. Right? Nobody does that, right? Or at least you shouldn't be doing that. A person who's balanced, a person who's in their right mind doesn't do things like that. Right? Does that make sense? You show up at work and then 3 hours later, you're like, no, wait a second, I'm making a huge mistake. And then you go to the other job. And then 3 hours after you're there, you say, no, this is stupid. I should have gone back to, I should stick with the first job and go back to the first job. You won't make it past the first day, right? This example is not resonating with anyone here in this room. Let me ask it to you in a better way, or in a way that maybe will resonate with you. Let's say a person decides that they're going to marry someone. They have two people that they could marry. They decide to marry someone. They go through the whole thing. They get married. And then a day after they get married, They decide they made a mistake, and they pick up and they go and they live with the other person for 3 hours, for half a day, for a day and a half. And then they realize, no, they made a mistake. And then they come back to the first spouse. And then after 4 hours later, they do the same thing again. And every day they go back and forth. And the spouse is sitting at home and they don't know if their husband or their wife is coming home because maybe they're with the other spouse. This example makes more sense, right? A person who does that is not committed and is maybe a little crazy because you have to make a decision. Like, who are you with? Who's your spouse? What's your job? Where's your school? Are you here or are you there? Yeah? But somehow we live that way every single day with Judaism or with Hashem. And it doesn't seem so crazy. We don't consider ourselves to be schizophrenic, dual personalities, or we certainly don't feel guilty every day that we're cheaters. But why? What's the difference?
Wait, you mean like you're not identifying with like sect of Islam or?
No, I'm talking about, it's exactly like what I said. You get married, you live with your spouse for half a day, and then you decide you want the other guy, so you go and you live with the other guy for a day, and then you come back. And every 6 hours you decide, you say, no, I want this guy, and no, I want that guy.
Asking what you're trying to connect that idea. Is it with the godly soul and animal soul?
No, it's about you and your relationship with God.
Because Hashem isn't like something that we can really see or feel physically. It's not like it's more, he's hidden. So when something is hidden, you question, is it there, is it not? No.
So this is a classic justification that we make for ourselves.
I have something else, maybe because actually the relationship that we have with Hashem is not like it's more deep and there's intimacy. We are already connected. It's not.
You can, like I said, what you're saying is similar to what she's saying. It's the same idea. We say these things to ourselves all the time, but it's not about God. It's about us. Are we committed to this religion, and are we doing this thing? Why do we struggle every single day with the same problems? Either we decided that we're doing this thing, or we decided we're not doing this thing. Why is it so difficult? Why is it so much easier to commit to a job or to a marriage or to a mode of action or a style of dressing, but every single day, multiple times a day, we commit to doing things in this religion, and then we when we want to do it, but then we screw up.
In those other physical things, you feel the positive how do I say, like not consequences, but like you feel like you're getting something out of it in return, and if the relationship with Hashem, the stuff you get in return, you don't understand it.
You've never done anything in life because that's what you're supposed to do, because that's like your job. Do it even though you don't understand, especially when you were younger.
Well, I guess the consequences would be feeling guilt if I don't. But
your consequences would be what?
Feeling guilt if I don't do that.
Okay. So you don't feel guilt if you're not doing something that you're supposed to and that you committed to yourself. Forget about God and whatever, the cosmos. You committed to yourself that you're going to do X. You made a New Year's resolution on Rosh Hashanah that you're going to, do this particular thing.
It's very hard to commit to those things. Not everybody.
I know, but when you don't keep to those commitments, a lot of people feel guilty about it. That doesn't work for you? No, isn't that not that doesn't work for you? So I'm not asking you a personal question. I'm saying that isn't similar to what you're saying, that you took a commitment to do something, or you were told, or this is something that you decided that you need to do, and then later on you feel guilty about it, that you couldn't keep to that.
Yeah.
I can assure you that after years and years and years of promising God on Rosh Hashanah that you're going to do X, Y, and Z, and you come back 2 years, 3 years, 12 years, 15 years, 25 years, and you're still struggling with the same thing, it starts to get a little embarrassing.
Right. For
yourself, not because God knows that you weren't going to do it. He knows what you were going to do. But you, like, how do you, it's hard. It's hard to save face. It's hard to look yourself in the mirror and to say, I don't understand. I made a achlata, I made a resolution that I was going to say Tillim after davening. Tillim after davening, for people that have been saying Tillim for many, many years, takes 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes. People that don't say Tillim every day, or they're starting to say Tillim, it takes 15 minutes, even 20 minutes in the longer days. So if a person has decided that they want to take 10 to 20 minutes a day and say Tillim, and they have 24 hours, or at least the hours that they're awake, and they can do it throughout the 16 hours that they're awake, why can't they find those 15 minutes? If a person can't find 10 to 15 minutes, and certainly if you read Hebrew better and it takes you 3 to 5 minutes, 3 to 7 minutes, why is it so difficult to push yourself to commit to do it every day if that's something that you want to do? You spend 3 to 7 minutes doing a lot of things that have become part of your daily routine and that you don't struggle with every day. Maybe you did when you were much younger, as you were a kid. People who have morning routines, people who have evening routines. People have no problem deciding and committing to brushing their teeth in the morning and showering and getting dressed and so on. These are things that become part of your routine after you do it for a little while. But for some weird reason, with things with Judaism, it's a constant battle. You ever thought about this? Or is a completely new concept? This is new? You ever thought that it's weird? It's a weird thing. Why can't someone commit to 5 minutes of...
I know I can't.
What?
Like, I know for me that when I want to add an extra thing in my life, to do something, when it keeps even starting stuff again, I know if I had a set schedule for when I did it, or I woke up and I got dressed and I automatically right away davened, and it became part of my schedule. But still, now years later, every single time I travel or I change countries, I have to get myself back into that routine of davening again. So for me, that's the reason why it's a lot harder to get committed to something, because I know the second I jump around or the second I do something, I'm gonna get thrown off and have to recommit in a way.
So it's a funny thing that we have such an easier time getting back into, let's say, a morning routine or an evening routine or just eating 2 or 3 times a day. In other words, when we're traveling, for instance, we'll skip doing things that we committed because we're out of our routine, but we'll figure out a way to get stuff to eat and whatever, because we have to, yeah, but it's a funny thing that certain things are constants and they become part of our routine. And we get back into those routines more easily. But with Judaism, it's always a struggle. It's always a thing. And this is what this Perek talks about. It talks about the Ir Tanya, the small city, which is our bodies, which is fought over constantly throughout our entire lives by the Nefesh Habamis and the Nefesh Elokis. And the reason why the Alter Rebbe brings this idea, or reveals to us this idea that you have 2 different nefashis, you have 2 different souls, and each one of those souls, as you've been learning about up until this point, that each soul has its own set of intellect, its own seichel, and its own midas, its own set of emotions, and its own way of doing things or wanting to do its own set of desires and personality. The Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh Habamis have 2 different personalities. There's a split personality situation going on inside you. 1 minute, your Nefesh Habamis is talking to you. Another minute, your Nefesh Elokis is talking to you. It's 2 totally different people. And so when you understand that, first of all, you understand that you're not crazy. You don't have a mental disorder. Because if you only had 1 nefesh and you were the way you are, then you would. You understand? If there weren't multiple voices in your head telling you to do different things and to want different things and to be pulled in different directions on a constant basis, if you only had 1 voice in your head, but still you vacillated every single day, should I, shouldn't I, should I, should I, and then you actually go this way, go that way every day, is like you change your socks back and forth. you would be a little crazy. There would be something wrong with you. But because Alter Rebbe comes along and says, no, you have two nefashis, and then on top of that, you also have a Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov. You have a lot of noise going on in your head. So it's totally normal that one day you wake up and it's like this, and one day you wake up and it's like that. And the trick is to self-mastery. If you want to master your own self and your own destiny and your own life and be in control of your own life and destiny and future, you have to understand how each one of the nefashis work. The more you understand how each one works, how each personality works, you can identify the voices in your head and where they come from. And then it becomes infinitely easier to choose, to identify from which way it's coming from, or from where it's coming from, and then to choose if you want to go ahead, if you want to follow that voice in your head. The difficulty becomes when you're not sure what the right thing to do is. And you hear all the voices as one thing, and you're waiting to hear like the clarity. You're waiting for them to fight it out and like let you know. And if when they don't, so then you speak with other people and you ask them to tell you which one of these voices are correct. But if you knew what was coming from the Yetzer Hara, or you knew what was coming from the Nefesh Habahamis, then you know where that ends up. You know what direction that soul wants you to go into or to take. And you know where that, like what the destination is. If you know what the destination is, then you know what each one of the steps are leading towards. And if you don't want to go to that destination, then you don't go that way. Or at least it's much easier to identify. You may end up doing it anyway, but at least you know what you're doing. You're not just randomly doing stuff. You're not just randomly doing stuff and not knowing like what you're doing. Yeah, okay, I'm doing. There's a big difference between a person that sins and they have no idea that they're sinning on an ongoing basis. I'm not saying that they mess up, they slip up, they do something by mistake. I'm saying a person is ongoing, doing things day in, day out, and they're moving in a certain direction, but they have no idea that they are, versus a person that makes a decision, I'm gonna go do this, I know it's wrong, but I wanna do this, and that's it. There's a whole different level of awareness, of consciousness. That person that's aware of what they're doing can change direction at any point because they're in complete control. They're making a choice to do something. And then they can make a choice the opposite. Does this make sense? You're in control of yourself. You're aware of yourself. Self-awareness. So this is what this Perek is starting to talk about. So let's read a little bit. So at least I could say that I taught you something today. So Perek test. So in order to explain the quality of the war that happens between the two souls inside yourself, so first Alter Rebbe starts to talk about, I jumped ahead a little bit to the second section of the Perek, but now we'll go back to the beginning of this. Where are these two souls? And that helps us to understand their personality, their behavior. And then it helps you to begin to understand that when the voices come, when you hear them coming from different places, then it's one of the ways of indicating who's talking to you, right? Just like when you have your phone, and you have caller ID, and it says that you have a call coming in from New York, or you have a call coming in from California, you have a call coming in from Kentucky, right? You know where the call is coming from. You know where this person is calling you from. Okay, and today with cell phones, it's a little more difficult because area codes are all mixed up. But it used to be that area codes were like from a certain place. You had a landline and this, whatever. And if someone was calling you from this and this state or this and this area code, so you knew they were calling you from there. They were physically there. So, right? You remember this? Or like, whatever. This is the way it used to be. If someone is calling you, if you hear a call that's coming, a voice that's coming from a certain part in yourself, so then you know that it's coming from that soul, because one soul lives in one part of your body and another soul lives in another part of your body. Can any of you guess where these souls live?
Yes.
Yeah, no. Mm-hmm. Do what? I hope that you don't have a halal in your brain.
בלב,
No. You said,
בצד השמאלי שלהם זה הנפש האלוקית.
yeah.
בצד הימני של הלב והמוח זה הנפש הבהמית, זה הנפש, לא.
Hmm?
השמאלי זה האלוקית, הימני והמוח זה
Balev.
כן?
Both in your heart.
כן.
The nefesh habamis and the nefesh halikis both live in your heart.
כן.
Okay, so that is tricky what you're saying. Because if they're both in your heart, so then it's a problem. Because if they're both coming from your heart, so then it's difficult to differentiate and to know which one is which. So really, even though that sometimes the nefesh elokit comes into your heart onto the right side, like what the Perek will explain, but its main place where it lives is in the brain, is in the head. So when you hear something that's coming, that's an intellectual idea, intellectual idea or thought, yeah, thank you, that's coming to you, so then you know that it's coming from your nefesh elokis. If it's something that's emotional, in other words, what came first? Is something coming to you as an idea, and you're checking how you feel about it, then it's probably something that came from your nefesh elokis, and you're checking with your feelings about how you feel about this idea. Ideas come from the nefesh elokis, at least the first idea. So that's usually the second thought. No, you could think something not good, but usually the first thought is something that's good. Now that's one way of thinking. Another way that people think is that they think with their heart. Is that first they have something that they want, and then afterwards they think about if that makes sense, or if that's appropriate. In other words, they look to their minds. First there's an idea, and then I check how I feel about that. Or there's something that I feel that I want, and let's see if I can make that make sense. One starts from the mind and then goes to the heart, and the other one starts from the heart and goes to the mind. You understand? Does that make sense? Nefesh elokis starts out with a thought, and then you check how you feel about it. So when you think about something, and then you say, oh, that's an interesting idea. I wonder, let's see if that makes sense. Let's see if that works for me. So that's usually something that's coming from the nefesh elokis, because it's coming from your brain. And then you check afterwards with your feelings. If it's a feeling, it's something that you want, but you're not sure why, and then you have to sort of use your brain to think about, why do I want this thing? And why does it make sense? Does it make sense? So then it's usually something that came from the nefesh habamis, it's coming from the heart, and then afterwards you look to understand it or explain it. Now, this process is something that happens, that we do constantly, and sometimes we don't even realize that it's coming from the heart or from the brain. It's just something that's now here. And we don't check if is it something that makes sense to begin with, or it's something that I'm trying to justify in my mind after the fact. Make sense? But if you'll spend time thinking about this and your process, and you'll think about the thoughts in your mind, or the things that you're feeling in your heart, and you start to, you pause more, you stop more to think about what's going on, and what is this thought in my mind, and where did it come from, and so on, you'll begin to get used to very quickly, faster than you'll even think, about the nature of your thoughts and where they come from. So here's what he says in the beginning. Perek tes, v'hinei makim mishkan nefesh habamis shemiklipas noiga v'chol ish Yisrael balev. So the place, the main dwelling place, the place where the nefesh habamis lives, is in every Jewish person, is in the heart. V'cholol hasmali shehu malei dam. It's in the left ventricle, the left hollow space that's full of blood. What does it mean, full of blood? Your whole heart is full of blood, but the left side of your heart is the side of your heart that pushes, sort of that boils the blood and pushes the blood out into your body. When you feel your pulse, when you feel your heart racing and you feel your heart pumping, so when it pumps out, and when you feel the pulse go boom, not when it's in between the pulses, right? When you feel your pulse, you feel the push of the blood, right? Right, the pulse is the push. The space in between the pushes is when your heart is sucking the blood back in. It's the same thing like your lungs. When you breathe in, it's like a sort of the quiet part of the breathing. Then when you breathe out,
Stronger.
what?
Stronger.
Right. So you hear the pulse when it's pushing. So that pulse that's pushing the blood out is on the left side. Viksiv ki adam hu nefesh. So a person always has, no matter how long, no matter how much blood you need, if you're exercising, if you're full of fear, anxiety, and your heart is racing, there'll always be about 3 ounces, 4 ounces of blood always in your heart. No matter how much blood gets pushed out, there always has to be that amount of blood in your heart. And the reason for that is because that's where the nefesh is, because the nefesh lives in the blood. And that's why when a person is bleeding profusely, and when all the blood is drained out of the person's body, including that amount of blood that's left in the heart, what happens? Your person bleeds out, they die. Because the nefesh, the soul that's in your body, it lives in the blood. And if the blood leaves the body, so then the soul goes with it. And therefore, because the nefesh habamis lives in the heart, all of the bad emotions or bad desires that a person has, bad character traits like anger and ego and so on, all come from the heart. A person gets angry in their heart. The people are self-centered because of their heart. The people desire things that are inappropriate in their heart not because there's something wrong with your heart, not because you have a bad heart, but because the nefesh habamis lives in your heart, and so therefore these desires rise up in your body from your heart. From the heart, just like the blood pumps out from your heart to all parts of the body, including your brain. Your brain desperately needs the blood and the oxygen from your lungs that go up from your heart into your lungs, and not eventually, but then to your brain. It needs that living force that comes with the blood and the oxygen. So too also the blood goes to all parts of the body and takes with it the life and the vitality of the nefesh habamis and spreads it through the blood to all parts of the body constantly. Blood is constantly in every single part, in every single cell of your body, literally, even besides the veins. There's blood in every single part of your body. Even if you don't cut your veins, but if you scrape yourself, there's a little blood in every single cell of your body, and there's life, there's living. There's a little piece of the nefesh that's in every single part of the blood that goes to every single part of your body. And in that way, the nefesh, the soul, spreads to every single tiny point in your body and gives it life. And the nefesh, the soul, also ascends l'mayach sheberosh. Even though the nefesh shalikis lives in the brain primarily, the nefesh habamis goes up also into the brain. The nefesh habamis sends thoughts and desires and wants up to the brain in order to justify them, in order to think about them.
Are they both comes from the nefesh? Like both of them, they belong to the animal soul.
No, the nefesh halikis is a godly soul, and the nefesh habamis is the animal soul. These are the two different souls. One lives in the heart, in the left side, and the other one lives in the brain.
So the animal soul is in the heart.
Yes. Just like the source of blood is in the heart, and from the heart, it spreads to all of the parts of your body. So too also, it goes also up into your head. And in this way, the nefesh habamis is trying to spread its ideas, its wants, its personality to every single part of your body in order to govern and to conquer and then govern and be in charge completely of you, of what's called the Ir Ktana, the small city, which is you, your body, yourself. However, the place where the Nefesh Elikis lives, the godly soul lives, is in the brain, in the head. Umisham, and from there, just like the heart pumps blood and the nefesh habamis spreads throughout the entire body through the blood from the heart to all parts of the body, so too also the nefesh halikis lives in the brain. The brain is connected to every single part of your body through your nervous system. The center of your nervous system is your brain. And from there, the nefesh halikis spreads to all parts of your body. And also to your heart. Where does it come to the heart? If the nefesh habamis is in the left side and that's full of blood, so then where does the nefesh halikis come to? The nefesh halikis comes to the right side where there isn't blood. That doesn't mean that there isn't blood at all, but it isn't the place of the boiling of the blood or the pulsing of the blood. Like it says in Kehelis, Shlomo Melech in his great wisdom says that a wise man's heart is to his right, which means that if a person is wise, a person will listen to the right side of his heart, which is the nefesh halikis.
Can both of them be aligned?
What?
Can both of them be aligned?
Aligned. So this is what Chassidus is here. This is a lifelong struggle that we look to align our nefesh habamis and our nefesh halikis. This is what the milchama, the war over the Ir Ktana, the small city, is all about. This is what we try to do. This is what we struggle to do our whole lives. To bring our nefesh halikis and our nefesh habamis together on the same page. And that is the tachlis, that is the ultimate goal to achieve through learning Chassidus and through learning Tanya is to come to a place where our nefesh halikis and nefesh habamis aren't fighting anymore, and they both want the exact same thing. And that's a tzaddik. Any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So since we can't become a
One
what?
second, what time zone are you in? I'm being told that it's too early in the morning for so much stuff. Are you in
No,
a late time zone?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So since we all can't be a tzaddik, how can we try to not be so crazy when we make these New Year's resolutions every year and try to fulfill them and things like that? Because I don't think, well, at least I can speak for myself, I don't think I'm going to reach the point where both my godly soul and animal soul want the same thing.
Okay, so first
But
of all,
I still want to try to do the things that I say I'm going to do.
So first of all, don't sell yourself short. It's a lot easier than you think it is, and that's what Tanya is here to explain. That it's kikar v'elecha davar ma'ed, that it's something that's very accessible and easy for you. You just have to learn the way. That's number one. Number two, what's so beautiful about Tanya and what's so beautiful about Chassidus is that it doesn't, is that it's not all or nothing. It's not 100% either I'm totally here or totally there and that's it. There's many, countless things, countless points throughout your day that you can be doing that both your nefesh elikis and your nefesh habamis are on the same page about. And every single person in this room and everyone online has experienced this at one point or another when you did a mitzvah and you were excited about the mitzvah.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime when you were excited about the mitzvah, when you were physically excited about the mitzvah, like you're excited, you're looking forward to doing a mitzvah, you're looking forward to a certain holiday, Shabbos, any particular mitzvah. And it could be that that's even something that you do ongoing. Thank you. And that is your nefesh habamis and your nefesh elikis working together. It's where something that you've done right, where you've explained somehow, you've created dialogue in between your nefesh habamis and your nefesh elikis. You've created some sort of a conversation where it made sense to the both of them to do this thing. And that's you being on the same page with both your nefesh habamis and your nefesh elikis. That's you conquering your small city in one small area. And the way the Rebbe explains that once you have that one mitzvah where you are excited about fully, both with your nefesh habamis and your nefesh elikis, that already means that you've already broken down a part of the wall, and to a certain degree, you're already there. You're already to a certain degree at tzaddik. Because that means that it's just a matter of duplicating the process. But you've already done it. Every person has somewhere in their life where they're a tzaddik. Because that mitzvah is something that they live with or that they're excited about always.
Okay.
All right? You have another question? I'm sorry, I ruined your morning. Very good. Okay, I'll see you later for Ikr.